Okie dokie, I am back. Here we are. Welcome everybody. Vorm here. We're not playing 7 days a day. We're doing something completely different. We are playing Arkham Horror, the card game, the LCG, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to explain about this. This is intended to be kind of a practice session for me. So I can get used to the module and the mechanics of TTS and get some more practice in and all that. I will explain some things and about what we're doing and why we're doing it and all that. If you've never heard of Arkham Horror, the card game, it's a living card game as opposed to a collectible card game. The distinction being you don't buy packs with randomized cards in them. You always know exactly what you're going to get. There's bunches and bunches of campaigns and investigator expansions and so on. But basically, you pick some investigators, you send them on adventures, and they die horribly. So you know, right up my alley. It's deep and hard and so on. The basics aren't too tough, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So don't worry about most of what you see on the board. We're going to concentrate our attention in this center area and primarily right here, the player mat for my character. And then this is the map of the locations we're going to explore. All of this you can ignore. All of this you can ignore. Just don't even look at it. It's not there. So what we've got set up here is I'm going to be taking Wendy the Urchin on an adventure. So here is Wendy Adams the Urchin. She is our investigator, and I'm going to take her solo, all by herself, into the first campaign for the revised core box set. Kind of the way the game system works is there's a revised core box that you buy to get into the starter of the game, and that has some investigators for you to choose from. It has cards for them, and it's both a deck building game as well as a campaign game. And I'm not going to go into all the details again, but these appear all the different campaigns that you can go on, and we're going to be going on the very first one, Night of the Zealot, which is the campaign. It's a shortish campaign with 3 scenarios that comes in that revised core box. Then the idea is that you expand outward from there by going on these other adventures. You buy these other boxes, they have the adventures in them, and then there's also investigator expansions for each of them. So there's Dunwich Legacy here has a campaign as well as a set of investigators, and Carcosa has one, and Forgotten Age has one, and so on. And you can buy them independently of each other. If you feel like you've already got enough investigators, you can just buy the campaign and take your existing investigators on those adventures. But the idea is that each of these and each of the investigator expansions increases your card count and the card, not just the amount, but new cards are added to the series, and when you're deck building for your investigator, you can pull cards from those new box sets as well. So you keep expanding and expanding your options. But for this first one, we're just going to do Wendy, and she's in the original revised core set box, and we're going to take her on this first adventure. It's all set up. We have 3 scenarios in this adventure. We have the Gathering, the Midnight Masks, and the Devourer below. The table is already set up with the Gathering. All the cards are in place and so on. Once we finish this first one, then we can just have it place the second one and the third one and so on. So these are just the campaign scenarios. This section up here we'll call kind of the Mythos area. I'm not sure how to go through all this. I don't want to explain all the rules. I just want to kind of play. But this is kind of how the game flow is organized. We have a bad guy deck of encounter cards right here. We're going to draw an encounter card each turn. Could be monsters that we have to fight or evade. Could be tests that we have to take to avoid traps or avoid bad events. The agenda deck is basically the plans and strategies of the bad guys. They're trying to get something done, and we're trying to stop them. So as this deck advances, that's bad for us. The act deck is for our investigators. This is how we thwart the bad guys' plans, and advancing this deck is good for us. So we don't want that to advance. We do want that to advance. And I'll get into the mechanics of that later. The scenario card shows the little tokens there that we're going to be drawing from the chaos bag. If any of those tokens come up, we just read the item to the right for whatever the effect is going to be. And this changes per scenario. It's different every time. In this particular scenario, those are the ones you get. Then we have difficulty choices. Your difficulty choice denotes these tokens that are in the chaos bag. instead of rolling dice when we're doing a skill test, we find out the difficulty of the test, we compare it to our skill, and then we draw one of these tokens as a modifier. It's like rolling dice, but with the token system, you can change out the tokens to make the game easier or harder based on the numbers on the tokens and the special abilities and effects. But this is what's in the chaos bag that we'll be drawing from on standard difficulty. So that's that whole section. We got a victory display where we'll put enemies that have victory points. So when we defeat them, we'll put them up here to keep track of them. This is a turn reference sheet, which I'm not going to explain, but in red there's the opportunities for the players to do things during each of the phases that are going on. We got a few just reference cards over here. This is just a way for me to summon tokens on my numpad on my keyboard. I just press the appropriate number and it summons the token if I need it. We have what we can do during a turn, the various actions we can perform. We have the round sequence, which I'll kind of go through later. We have our player mat, and there's a lot of stuff here, but basically we have cards we're going to play down onto this mat into the various positions. This is our character card. There is a backside to the character card that shows us the deck building options and the requirements for putting a deck together for Wendy. We have a deck of cards. We have trackers for our damage, our horror, our resources, and our clues. And we have a discard pile for our deck. These, again, are just tokens. Don't worry much about these. And then we have our hand of cards. We're actually going to be redrawing these to start fresh. Over on this side, we've got the scenario or campaign log for the 3 adventures we're on, and we'll read some of that. And then we have a campaign log that keeps track from scenario to scenario of things we've done, things we haven't done, just various things. And it tracks your experience and any trauma that you're carrying over from one scenario to another during this campaign. That's it. That's all the elements. Manuals over here, knickknacks over here, all the adventure stuff is over here, and that's where these modules came from. And then this is where you can bring cards in if you want to modify your deck. For example, these are all the cycles. So we have the revised core set, done with horror, path to Carcosa, etc. And I can just click on one, and it'll bring out all the cards for that set. So those are the investigators. There's Wendy that we're playing currently. And then these are all the other cards. So lots of cards. So I could pull one of these cards out and add it to my deck if I wanted to and such. Or you can get more specific and say, all right, I just want level 0 cards for Guardians. And there's the Guardian class cards that are level 0. Separated into skills, events, and assets. All right, so you get the idea. And then this is a deck importer. There's a website where you can track what collections and cards you own and create decks and all that. And you can import the decks, which makes it nice and quick and easy. Let me go get rid of some... Oh, Radar already banned them. Never mind. All right, so let's zoom into this part right here. I've got some camera positions saved, so we can just zoom right to whatever I want to look at. This is our player mat, so let's talk about Wendy. Wendy Adams, the urchin. So, if we flip her card over, Mama used to let Wendy play with her necklace when she was small. Mama would tell her stories, and Wendy would spin the necklace and watch as it glittered. Then word came from that her father had been lost at sea, and Mama started acting strange, drawing unusual symbols and chalk all over the house. They took Mama to the asylum, and Wendy went to the orphanage. Before they took her away, Mama gave her the necklace to protect her. Wendy stayed in the orphanage for several years before running away, deciding that she could take better care of herself on her own. So she's pretty young. It shows other info on there for deck size and deck building options. I'm not going to go into that kind of minutia for now, but just know that we have a deck of cards. We're going to put these back into our deck. And then we're going to shuffle it real good. We're also going to go up here, and we're going to shuffle the encounter deck real good. All right. So Wendy is going on this adventure, and the first thing we need to look at is here. So, part 1, The Gathering. You and your partners, I got no partners, it's just Wendy, have been investigating strange events taking place in your home city of Arkham, Massachusetts. Over the past few weeks, several townspeople have mysteriously gone missing. Recently, their corpses turned up in the woods, savaged and half-eaten. The police and newspapers have stated that wild animals are responsible, but you believe there's something else going on. You're gathered together at the lead investigator's home to discuss these bizarre events. Wendy doesn't probably have a home, but, you know, they can't fit everything in. So it shows the setup of how to get the thing organized, and that's all we know from that. All right, next thing. We're going to read the top card of the agenda deck. There it is, Agenda 1A. What's going on? Late at night, you're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlor down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if something were digging beneath the floor. So, this is the first of the agenda cards. Like I said, this is the bad guys deck, and they're trying to accomplish things. Down at the bottom left, it shows the number 3. That indicates how many Doom tokens are necessary for this agenda to push forward. So if at any time we have 3 Doom tokens, and we have a counter here for the Doom tokens, and sometimes tokens will be put on the table. But if the total tokens in play is ever 3, then we flip this card over and read the back of it. Things will happen. And then we read the front of the next card. There's 3 cards in this deck. All right, next part, our side of it. Act 1A, Trapped. As you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So, instead of Doom tokens, this time we have a little magnifier symbol in the bottom, and that shows 2 and a investigator symbol. That means 2 per investigator. We only have Wendy, so our target is 2. We basically have to find 2 clues, and then we'll be able to get out of our room here. We'll be able to advance this act, and things will happen. Okay, so we are Wendy. Here is where we're at. We're at our study, and we have a little card here to show what location Wendy's currently at. We look at the study location. You've been investigating the strange events occurring in Arkham for several days now. Your desk is covered in newspaper articles, police reports, and witness accounts. So it has a little locked symbol kind of at the top of it right here. That indicates that it hasn't been explored yet. Because Wendy starts here, we're going to flip it over. And 2 clue tokens have been added to the location. That's because this info right here shows the 2 per investigator symbol. So that means 2 clues are going to be placed in this location for us to try to find. And this number here, the 2 in the kind of the dark color and the black color, indicates the difficulty that we have to finding those clues. It's the shroud value, and that's how hard it is for us to locate these. So we need these 2 so that we can investigate or push our sorry about that. We can push our act forward. We need 2, and there are 2. All right, so we know that. Now let's move down to our player mat. So, first thing we're going to do is draw 5 cards from our newly shuffled deck. So we'll draw 5, see what we get. We got Guts, Burglary, Leo DeLuca, Hard Knocks, and Manual Dexterity. Not a bad draw. These 3 in the middle I want. These 2 on the outsides I'm going to mulligan. So we get 1 opportunity to mulligan. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the discard, put that in the discard. Draw 2 new cards to replace them. We drew Abandoned and Alone. That is our specific weakness that's required to be put into our deck. It's a bad card. It's a treachery card. But because we drew it during our initial hand draw, it doesn't count. So we put it aside, draw a replacement. Another burglary card. All right. Well, I don't need 2 burglary cards, but, you know, I can't do anything about it now. So we have our starting hand of 5 cards. Let's get these flipped over. They get shuffled back in. And we are ready to start. All right. So our goal is we need to get cards deployed. And the way this works, these here are action icons. I get 3 actions per turn currently. That's normal. Most investigators are going to have 3. There are ways to get more, and one of those ways is Leo DeLuca. So in the upper left corner, it has the number 6. That indicates the cost in resources it's going to take for me to play Leo DeLuca into my little play area. And in the middle, it says you may take an additional action during your turn. So every turn, I get 4 actions instead of 3. It's really powerful, really useful, but it's really expensive. But I need to get him out as quickly as possible. That's going to slow everything else down because I won't have the resources after playing him to get any of these other cards in play. You'll notice that costs 1, 6, 2, 1, and 1. So we're going to need to try to get some cash out as well. But we got 3 actions until we get Leo down. Let's flip our character card back over. So other things to talk about. In the top right of Wendy's card, it shows 4 icons in our stat row, our stat block. Those icons are willpower, intellect, combat, and agility. Willpower is mostly to resist horrifying stuff, and to resist the forces of evil impinging on our mind. Intellect is primarily used for researching the clues, trying to find the clues, investigating them. Combat, fighting stuff. And then agility, running away from stuff, mostly. And there are some other effects. So we're lacking in combat. Wendy is, a young lady. She's not into the fisticuffs all that much. She has cards that will let her fight well, but we need to set that stuff up. So it's going to be rough if we draw some early monsters. She's going to have a hard time. But she can always try to run away. Currently, there's nowhere to run. We got one location. I can't go anywhere until we get these clues. So an early monster draw right now with us having no weapons and nowhere to go could be really, really tough. In the middle of the box, her card, it says Drifter, and it has a little swirly arrow symbol. That's a reaction symbol. When you reveal a chaos token, choose and discard one card from your hand. Cancel that token and return it to the bag. Reveal a new token. So she gets a do-over when we're drawing those random tokens. To modify our skill tests, I can discard a card and drew another one once per test. And then in addition, there's a special token that might show up, the Elder Sign token, that has +0. If Wendy's amulet is in play, you automatically succeed instead. We do not have her amulet in our hand currently. She's got a special item that we're hoping to get. But we're probably not going to put it into play, not with the way this deck works. And then finally at the bottom it shows a 7 for heart and 7 for mind. That's health and sanity. And that's denoted here. Health and sanity will put damage here. It shows our stat blocks here as well. I can increase or decrease that if I have temporary modifiers I want to remember, whichever. All right. So next thing to look at, actions. We can do these things. So I have 3 actions. I can do any of these things I want. I could draw a card or gain 1 resource. I can play a card like an event or asset card from my hand. I can activate an ability on a card that has that solid block arrow. That means it has to take an action to start that ability. I could move to a new location if there were one to move to. I could investigate, which is try to find the clues where I'm at. I could fight or engage an enemy. I'll get into the engage stuff later, but and then I could attempt to evade an enemy that's engaged with me currently. There are kind of 3 different symbols that you'll see. That big blocky arrow that points to the right is it takes an action to do, and then right below that section it has like kind of a lightning bolt symbol and the swirly arrow. Those 2 types don't require actions, and you'll see when we kind of go through things. All right, that's kind of all you need to know for the moment. So let's go ahead and plot out our turn. I need to get clues. I need to get this stuff into play. Lots of important things. So what we're going to do, we need Leo on the board. I can't get away from needing Leo. So I'm going to spend an action to gain a resource. Then I'm going to use all my resources, all 6 points, move that back to 0, and we're going to get Leo into play. Now notice the symbols that are on the mat. That is for an ally, which Leo is, so you can only have 1 ally in play unless you have some ability or card that allows you to have more. But by default, we can have 1 ally. So he is now taking up my 1 ally slot. As soon as I put him on the table, the module knows that he needs another token, and it's the same as my action tokens. So I get the free use immediately of the new action. But I got no resources now, so I got to decide how else I want to proceed here. Let's look at my other cards. So we got Burglary, only costs 1. It's an asset that I put into play. It does not take any specific slot, so I can put it over in this section. And its ability is that I can take an action, exhaust this card, and then investigate. If I succeed, instead of discovering a clue, I get 3 resources. So she burgles instead of gaining clues. So I got 2 copies of that. Then we got Hard Knocks, which is another asset that doesn't have a specific location. And as kind of free abilities, I can spend resources to either gain combat power or agility, my choice. So for each resource I spend, I can increase either of those stats. And this stays in play, and I can use that whenever I want. So it's a really good one. I need it on the table, but I can't afford it this round. The Rabbit's Foot. This one, we're not probably going to play. We're going to use it for a different reason, which I'll explain in a bit. But as a reaction ability after you fail a skill test, I can exhaust Rabbit's Foot and draw a card. And it takes up the next slot right here. And that's it. That's our choices. So I could use actions to draw new cards. I could use actions to get more resources. I can't play anything out because they all cost something that I don't have. Or we could investigate and try to find those 2 clues. So I think I'm mostly scared about getting a monster in our first card draw. If we do, it's going to be a rough time. Let's, Actually, that is flipped. So we used 1 to get a resource, we used 1 to summon him, and now I have 2 left. The third one I started with, and then the free one he just gave me. Let's do, Might be more important to get burglary out. So we have a 2 shroud value. The way this works is the shroud value is the difficulty. It's compared against my intellect. So we're at an intellect 3 versus a difficulty of 2, meaning we're at +1. And if I were to use an action to investigate with a +1, I would then click this button. That draws one of those tokens out of the chaos bag, one of these tokens over here. And you can kind of see the spread of numbers. So it goes from worst, this is auto fail. Then we have a big set of numbers kind of in the middle, ranging from -4, -3 at the bottom end, and +1 and zeros kind of at the top end. This is the good one that gives us whatever bonus our card shows. And then there's those ones that we draw, and we have to check that special card for what the effect is going to be. But on average, at standard difficulty, kind of a rule of thumb is you want to be generally at right about +2. So we're a little short of that. If I take this as a straight up roll, it's not great odds without us modifying it in some way. And that's the thing I'll talk about next. So we had these cards that I read the bottom section ability for, but notice in the upper left, just below the cost where it says 1 and then asset, just below that, there's a book symbol. Instead of playing this like an asset card and getting that, putting it into play on my mat and getting that ability at the bottom, I can instead commit it to a skill check, and it'll increase my statistic by whatever stats are listed on those little symbols. So this one raises my intellect by 1 if I commit it to a skill test. So I could get my test to a +2 if I were to use this. And I might, because I've got 2 burglaries. I don't need both. This one is either a combat or an agility. And that one is a wild card. I can put that one anywhere I want. So, do we go for the clue or do we go for infrastructure? I think I'm going to go for infrastructure. Let's spend 1, get a resource added on. And then what do we put down? Hard knocks. I think I better put burglary down. That way we can try to fast draw resources. We'll have 4 actions next round that I can use investigates for and try to gain a stack of resources. I think I'll do that. So, we'll use the resource we just got, we'll use the action, and we'll get burglary into play. And that's it. That's our turn. We are out of actions. We're out of resources. Our hand limit is 8. We're fine under the hand limit. So, if we look at the round sequence we haven't really talked about, we skipped the Mythos phase, the first part in the first round. So we go down to the investigation phase. That's what we just did. Our investigator took all their actions. Now we're in the enemy phase. We currently have no enemies on the board, so we're going to skip this one as well. We're going to the upkeep phase. This is where if we had exhausted or tapped cards, they would untap and unexhaust. We have a button that'll automatically do all the upkeep stuff. So it mentions in the bottom section there, upkeep, reset actions, flip everything back upright, ready exhausted cards. Each investigator draws 1 card and gains a resource, and then we check our hand size. So this button here will do it all for me. So it flipped my tokens back over, it drew a card, and it gave us a resource. So the card we got is Overpower. This is a skill-specific card. This one will gain me 2 combat when I commit it to a skill, and if we're successful in that, it'll draw a card, as it notes at the very bottom. So that's good. That'll help us if we have to get into an early fight. I would like to save some of this stuff and set up some combos, because we're going to have some big fight coming later. But yeah, so we're all set again. So that is the end of the upkeep phase. We're below the 8 card max. We're going to go back up top, and now we do the Mythos phase. Very first thing, place a doom on the agenda. So we'll zip up here, place a doom on the agenda. Is the doom count equal to or greater than the number here? It is not. So we're at 1, and we need 3 to this to advance. So we're not going to do that. Back down here. Next up, advance the agenda if the doom threshold is satisfied. It is not. Now each investigator draws 1 card from the top of the encounter deck. So the encounter deck is up here, but we don't need to come up here to draw 1. We have a button we can press that'll pull the top card. We pulled monsters! Swarm of rats! Alright, I didn't want monsters early. We got monsters early. At least we got the easiest monster. So, swarm of rats. Things to note here at the top, the stat block, 113. 1 is this combat value. That's the difficulty I have to fight against. So my combat versus that. So it's 1 for me and 1 for him, so we're even up there. He has 1 hit point, or 1 health. I only need to do 1 point of damage to kill these. And he has 3 agility, or 3 evasion, actually. And so if I try to evade him with my agility, we compare the two. I have a 4, he has a 3, so I'm +1 if I try to evade these guys. And then he also has the hunter tag. That means he's going to follow me if I move to a new location. He'll follow me to the location during the enemy turn. That's it. So it's the easiest enemy in the deck. So at least they took mercy on me in that regard. But we're going to have to deal with that guy. So he attaches right here. He's going to be my first threat in this threat row up here. So we're done there. And that's it. Now it's our turn again. Hey there, Nendar. Welcome to Arkham Horror. All right, it's Wendy. So remembering our abilities, if we draw a bad token, as long as I've got cards in my hand and I don't mind getting rid of one, we can redraw. So that's a pretty powerful effect. That's one of the Wendy's most important things. We don't have her amulet yet. So we got to think about what we're going to do here. My plan was to do some burglary. Use some actions here to investigate, and if we succeed, gain resources, because that's what's going to let me get more cards out, and also let me, if I get hard knocks down, power up my combat and evasion abilities. So we got to think about what we're going to do. I can take the fight against the rats. I don't have anything currently that's going to help me much. So it'd be an even up fight, which is not great. I could commit overpower, but I think I'm going to have to. At least we get to draw a replacement card. It's really important that I draw as many cards as I can, because there's specific card combos that we need to get rolling in order for Wendy to actually survive this. All right. So let's take the fight. Let's take the. I hate to do this against stupid rats, but I'm not set up to fight yet, so we're gonna have to. I could commit that. Let's do. Now I need the bonus, so let's go ahead and we'll flip that one first. So use an action. We're going to fight the rats. And I am going to commit this overpower card. So we're going to get 2 combat added. So we're at a 3 versus a 1. We're +2. And if we win, we get to draw a new card. So this gets discarded. And temporarily, we're at a 3, but I'll just remember that. So we're +2. We're going to draw a random token. We drew a -1. That means we're still +1. So we succeeded. So we have killed the swarm of rats. We'll discard them. And that means we get to draw a new card because we succeeded at our test. We got another rabbit's foot. Damn you, rabbit's foot! I'm not getting the ones I need. Alright, but that is gone. It's important that I do that because if we look at the action list screen here, at the very bottom, that paragraph that says, if you're engaged with an enemy, which we were, and spend an action to do anything other than fight, evade, parlay, or resign, they get a free attack of opportunity on us. So I had to get rid of him before I did anything like searching for clues or playing other cards or so on. So it was mandatory I do that. Or I could have tried to evade him, which would tap him and prevent him from having an action this turn. Either or. I had to do something like that, but I couldn't do these other actions. So next up, 3 more actions. We still got 2 clues out. We got 1 resource. I need 2 to get hard knocks out. So let's go another action to get another resource. Then we're going to 0 that out to do another action to get hard knocks in play. And that's the one that lets me, with resources, buy or bump my combat or my agility value. Very important to get that going. So we got 2 of our critical items out in play at least. 1 action left this round. So this thing up here acts as a timer. That's the timer for the scenario basically. Because you can't stop the counters from advancing the doom count. Every turn it's going to add 1, and there's certain other effects in the game that might add even more. But this is basically our timer. So we got to try to get things moving as quickly as possible. So, one action left. Let's try to investigate. And I think if we succeed, I might burgle. So I'm going to commit a rabbit's foot to this test. So we're going to flip that for the investigate. We're going to be doing this. We're going to exhaust burglary. So we'll go ahead and rotate that to show it's exhausted. And then we're going to commit a rabbit's foot to give us a +1. So we're now at a 4 intellect versus a 2 difficulty. The shroud value of that location is 2. The number in black on the left. So we've got a +2 for the test, which is where we roughly want to be. All right, let's draw. I'm going to click it first to get rid of the old token. Puts it back in the bag. Then we'll draw our new token at a +2. We drew a +1. We succeeded. So I am going to take the resources instead of the clue. So per the burglary, we gain 3 resources. So we're now up to 3. And we're out of actions again. But we got Leo in play. We got 2 of our other really important critical ones in play. Now I just need to get some cards. I need to draw cards and get the clues and advance the act. All right, because bad things are going to start happening if I don't get a weapon on the table especially. All right, we're out of turn options though. So our investigator phase is done. There's no enemies on the board, so skipping that. And we do the upkeep phase. Flips everything. We got our backstab. That's a good one. I need to keep that available for an important fight later. So I need to not use this. But of note at the bottom, it cost me 3 to play it. It lets me do a fight action, and this attack uses my agility instead of my combat value. So we have a 4 agility. That's one of our strongest abilities. So we get a 4 instead of a 1 for the combat, and it deals +2 damage. Now by default, any combat does +1 damage, so this would do a total of 3. It's the normal 1 +2. So we'd do a backstab, use our good combat value of 4 from our agility, and get 3 damage. So this is one of our heavy hitters. We need to keep this if we can for bigger stuff that's going to come later. Good to have, but not going to be near-term useful unless something really nasty pops out of the encounter deck. All right, so upkeep phase is done. We also got a resource added in, and that's it. So time to go do the bad stuff. Zooming back up top, we add another to the doom counter. We're at 2 out of 3, so we don't advance yet. Then we draw a card. We drew a treachery, grasping hands, revelation. It's a hazard. Test 3 agility. For each point you fail by, take a damage. So, grasping hands come up through the floor and try to grab us. We have to try to dodge out of the way using our agility. We're a 4 agility, so it's one of the better tests for us to get. So we're at a +1 so far on this test if I don't modify it. And again, +2 is kind of where we want to be. So, do I modify it? I could bump my agility through this ability, Hard Knocks. The bottom line, spend a resource, you get +1 agility. So we could drop one of our resources, get us to a +2. Or we can commit a skill card, which I'm not going to do. Well, I could do the rabbit's foot again. We can actually get the rabbit's feet back if I get another card in play, a certain card. That's why I'm not hesitant to use some of these. And I need my resources. Plus, we also have that duplicate burglary. That's for investigate. Let's, I can take a little bit of damage. +1. Let's toss the rabbit's foot. We'll commit it to the skill for a +2 total. Alright, let's see what we get. Auto fail. We just took 3 points of damage. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, that's the worst one we could have gotten. Out of 16, as a 1 out of 16 draw. You fail at 0 when you get the auto fail, so 0 compared to the difficulty of 3 means we take 3 points of damage. 1, 2, 3. Alright, that sucked a lot. And we're done with this test, so discard it. That was not good. Not good at all. Alright, so Mythos phase is complete. We move back to the investigator phase. Our turn. No monsters to deal with this time. Do we draw a bunch of cards? I need to get things moving because next Mythos phase, this thing's going to advance the clock. But I need cards. We don't have a single clue yet. Neither of these cards are useful for me to play right now, so that narrows things down. It really comes down to draw cards or grab the clues. I think I'm going to start with drawing 2 cards. See what we get. Oh, we got our emergency cache and another Leo. Not useful. Useful, sort of. I mean, it gives us, it doesn't cost me anything to play it, and we gain 3 resources. It takes an action to play it, though. And it would pump us, so I could pump a lot of resources into these if I need to. Still no weapon. Alright, let's play that. Take us up to 7. And our last action... I think I'm just going to sit this one out, and we'll wait for the... Yeah, this is going to be rough, timing-wise, but let's do that, and let's draw one more card. I need a fat stack of cards. Overpower. So we keep getting our secondary cards, but I can't draw my baseball bat, or... I don't have a ton of weapons in here, but we haven't found my amulet yet, and we haven't found a weapon yet. Alright, we're done. So... enemy phase. No enemies on the table. Upkeep phase. Hit that button. We got Lucky. That's another good card. So it's a 1-cost event that I can play. It's a fast card. That fast tag just means I don't have to spend an action to play this card. So, no action to play. Play when you would fail a skill test. Get +2 to your skill value for that test. So if I fail by 2... or 1, I can play this, and we succeed. Dead. Good one to have. We're starting to get there, but we still haven't pulled a single clue. Alright, so we're done with the upkeep phase. Our hand size is still fine. We move back to the Mythos phase. Popping up top. Add 1. And we have now reached the 3 out of 3, so we're going to reset that. We're going to flip this card over. Whoops. We're going to pull that card and flip it over. Alright, your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely. Although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. The lead investigator must decide. Choose one. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or the lead investigator takes 2 horror. So, choices. 2 horror, or discard a random. I don't care. I would really not like to lose my backstab. And the other 3 would be a little rougher. I could lose overpower. Really, I'd like to keep backstab and lucky. I only have 7 horror. That would be 5 I'd be left with. We've already taken 3 of our health. I'm going to take the random discard. So I have a button here to discard a random one. We're just going to hope it's not my backstab or my lucky. Ah, goodbye, lucky. Oh, well. So we took our negative. Roll back up here. So this is now done. So we'll just pull it out of play, and now we read the top of the next card. Agenda 2A, Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. So our new counter is 7. So we've got 7 doom tokens. We'll flip this over, and more bad things will happen. We need to get moving. All right, so that's it for the Mythos phase. Back to our turn. So we're doing pretty good on infrastructure, but I gotta get things moving. Time to investigate for clues. We've got a good stack of resources that we can use to either pump or play cards with. I got my most expensive card out already in the form of Leo. Now notice at the bottom, the health and sanity. This is an actual character that's following along with us. He can take damage. If either of those 2 numbers, he takes that amount. If he takes either 2 health or 2 sanity, then he's removed from play. That's why you might want to have a second one. I mean, 2 copies is usually so you can get them faster on the table. You have a greater chance to pull them from your deck. But you could also do it this way, where you splash damage onto him specifically instead of yourself. He goes away, and then you have a second copy you can bring out. But you can't have them both out at once. They're unique. It's okay to have multiple in your deck. They just can't be in play. All right, let's... I think I'm not going to burgle. I'd love to draw more cards, but we need to get the our act moving. So let's start investigating, I think. I don't have anything that'll pump investigation specifically. I guess I could toss my other burglary out to give me a +1. And Leo also gives a +1 if I don't think I'll need the second copy. But I need to hold this for tougher tests later too. So we're only to +1 normally. We're 3 intellect versus a 2 shroud. So that's not a great number. Well, let's toss burglary. We'll go ahead and do an action. We're going to just do a normal investigation. We're now at a +2 for the attempt. -1 means we're still +1. As long as we're either 0 or higher, we succeed. We have to meet the difficulty. If we're ever negative, then we fail. Or the auto-fail one comes up. So we succeeded at that one. So that means we can come up and grab a clue token off of that. It puts it here and it counts it. Let's go again. Another investigate. Yeah, we need to get moving. Let's toss the other Leo, so we're at a +2 again. Alright, that's the Elder Sign token. That's the best result. So on our card, it shows near the bottom, right above the heart and sanity. It shows the Elder Sign symbol effect. It's only a +0 in this case, because we do not have our amulet in play. Were our amulet in play, it would be an automatic success, regardless of what the other values were. So, we still succeed. So we'll put that away. And we go ahead and get the other clue. Alright, so we have both clues. I still have some actions left. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn my clues in. So, let's pop up top. It shows our total clue count. We'll just click here to remove the clues. We needed 2, as per the little magnifying glass at the bottom of there. 2 per investigator. So now we get to flip this card over. It says, you notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see the door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob, and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. So we have some things we need to do now. We need to put in play 3 new locations. The hallway, or 4 new. The hallway, the cellar, the attic, and the parlor. We discard any enemies that are in the study with us. There are none. And we place our investigator in the new hallway location. And then we take the study out of the game. So, we have a little box here of things that are set aside. We don't need that. We need that, 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 and that. Put him back in. Bring these down. And let's see. We've got the parlor. We're going to put that... Whoop. Parlor we're going to put out here. The cellar we'll put below us. The attic we'll put above us. And the hallway is replacing the study. Alright, so we're placing our character in the hallway. We have the attic. I'll show these in a minute. And we'll just put this up here. All done with that. Okay, this card is done. Now we read the top of the next card. The barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. That's the place out to my left. As you move toward it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. Objective. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So we need 3 clues in order to advance. We have to gain 3 clues, come back to the hallway, and at the end of the round, we could spend those clues to advance this act. So, basically, we need to move up to the attic and into the cellar. deal with whatever's going on there, find clues, and then come back to the hallway. All right, because we're in the hallway and it's got the little lock symbol. Anything we have not yet been to has the lock symbol. This we get to flip over. It has no clue tokens in the hallway, 0, and it has a single shroud value. There are actions you can perform that you can do even though there are no clues here, like my burglary action. I would still be able to test against this even though there's no clues to burgle, and other things. So, nothing else going on here, though. All right, so that's our situation. So we need to go north-south. I've got 2 actions left. Let's go ahead and spend an action. And we're going to move Wendy up to the attic. Flip the attic over. And 2 clues have been added to the attic. It says, forced, after you enter the attic, take 1 horror. It has 2 clues. 1 shroud value, so a fairly easy one for us to try to get the clues from. The bloody carcass of a malformed beast swings from a meat hook chained to the ceiling. Blood drains slowly from the carcass, dripping into a small barrel. A note in the bottom right, it says Victory 1. This is a victory location. If we can clear all the clues off of this at the end of the scenario, we'll achieve an extra victory point for doing this. Okay, so 1 shroud, 2 clues. That's pretty much what we need to remember. We got one whole action left. We got to take our horror. So 1 horror damage. Let's see. I'm not liking being out of cards again. I think I might, instead of searching for the clues this round, just draw another card. So let's use our last action, draw 1 more card. Hey, we got the flashlight. So the flashlight, if I play it out, it costs 2 to play it. It goes into one of my hand slots. Bottom right side of the card shows the hand icon. So it goes into one of these 2 slots. And it has 3 uses. So I can activate it with an action, spend one of those supplies, and investigate. And the location gets a -2 shroud for this investigation. Now, it's a little complicated. I want to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but when you lower the difficulty to 0, you automatically succeed, even if the rest of the numbers say that you're negative. And it's complicated, like I said, but you always fail at 0. I could draw a chaos token that says -1,000,000. But when you actually determine the success or failure, you fail at 0. Just kind of remember that term. Doesn't matter if you're negative 1,400. It gets brought forward to 0, and that's what you're comparing against. So lowering the difficulty is super powerful, because if you can lower it all the way to 0, you can't lose except the auto-fail token, that 1 in 16 token. No matter what else is drawn, even if you go negative, it brings it back to 0 for the comparison for the success-fail. So this would basically let me automatically succeed my investigates if I used it here in this 1 shroud location. Or you can wait until you get to a difficult location to lower the difficulty to a more manageable number. But strategy-wise, most of the time I've seen people recommend using these in low shroud locations just to guarantee the successes, nearly guarantee. All right, but that's the flashlight. So it's good to have. We're out of actions, so we need to move on. So the round sequence, enemy phase, we got no enemies currently, so we're skipping that. I'm going straight to the upkeep. Flip those, we got our other emergency cache. You can only have 2 copies of any particular card in your deck. So we've just drawn my 2nd emergency cache, which, you know, more resources is great. There's no limit to how many of those I can have, and absolutely the more the merrier, because that lets me pump my combat or my evade. So that's a good thing. I just need more cards. Resources are under control. If I can get a fat stack of cards, we can start doing some pretty crazy things, hopefully. Okay, we are done with upkeep phase. Moving back to the Mythos phase. So again, we add a Doom token. It does not advance the counter. We need 7. We only have 1. And we draw a card. We drew the Icy Ghoul. Not good. Not good at all. That's one of the big nasties. Oh boy. All right, this is gonna be interesting. So, Icy Ghoul, blow him up. Stat block at the top. He has 3 combat versus my 1, so I'm starting at a -2. He's got 4 health. 4 health. And he's got 4 agility versus my 4 agility. Or he's got 4 evade versus my 4 agility. So we're even up. 0, no bonus on that one if I try to avoid him. Oh, wait, he spawns in the cellar. We're okay temporarily. So he has a specific spawn location. He's going to be down in the cellar. So instead of coming to my combat area, he's hanging out down here. He's going to wait for us. All right. We'll have to deal with him when we come into the cellar. Now, things to note. Sometimes they have spawn requirements, and you just follow the directions. Sometimes it'll say, like, prey, lowest hit points, or prey, most clues, or things like that. And that's kind of a tiebreaker to determine if there's multiple heroes at a location, which one he'll target. He's worth 1 victory point. If we can defeat him, he would go up into our victory display. And in addition, to the left and right of the little torch symbol, right below where it says victory, it shows 2 hearts to the left, 1 sanity to the right. That's the damage he inflicts on us anytime he attacks us. He doesn't have to roll, draw shit from the bag. There's no test. He just does that if he gets to do an attack. So we don't want him to do an attack, because he'll kill us really quickly if we let him. That's pretty much everything there. So we'll deal with him in a bit. All right, so that's it for the Mythos phase. Moving back to our turn. Okay, so board-wise, we've got the 2 clue tokens we still got to grab. We are at a +2 already to investigate, because we have a 3 intellect versus a 1 shroud. So we're already sitting pretty good without having to use anything. So I could just not use the flashlight for its abilities and use it instead for that 1 intellect skill enhancement shown in the upper left. I haven't yet got my card that lets me retrieve items from the deck. So do we keep drawing cards? I really need to get things moving, especially with that icy ghoul down there in the cellar. Having a baseball bat would so be helpful, though. Let's do this. Let's flip that to play the emergency cache, and we'll get 3 more resources. Let's do... Can you heal physical or horror damage? You can in limited ways. You either have to have a card that does it, or sometimes there might be a location that you can go to that will allow you to do it. There are ways to do it, but not through default actions. There's got to be a special card or a special location or so on. I can't just declare I'm going to use an action to heal or anything like that. I think I'm just going to take the default. Let's take an investigate action. I think we've got enough resources for now. I don't need to burgle. Let's take a straight up +2 roll for the investigate. And remember our special ability. If we fail, I have the option of discarding a card to draw again. I wouldn't mind discarding the flashlight, I think. But let's give it a try. So we're at +2. We got a -3. We have failed. Do I discard for a redraw? I think I will. Let's discard for a redraw. -1. We succeeded. So we got one of the clues. Come to me. Do it again. Same thing. +2. And we succeeded. That's our good elder sign. So we got the other clue. Alright, that is all the clues at this location. Let's do our last action to move back down to the hallway. Yeah. Alright. That way next turn we can move down there and use our other other actions to deal with the ghoul. So we have 2 of the 3 clues we need to satisfy the act up here. So we need 3 total before we can do something about the barrier. So I need at least 1 clue out of that cellar, because that's the only place we can go. There are a few ways I might go about it. If I don't think I can take the ghoul in combat, I could try to evade him and pump my evade, and then give it a clue and leave. I don't remember him moving. He does not have the hunter trait. No, he'll stay in the cellar, so he won't follow me if I leave. The big question is he worth fighting for the 1 victory point? Do I have time to deal with that and the resources to deal with that? The 4 health is the big problem. I only do 1 by default, so even if I use my backstab, I'm only going to do 3. That means at minimum, I'm going to need to hit him twice. So I'd have to pump 2 attacks to try to take this guy down. Alternatively, I pump 1 evade and then get 1 clue, maybe both clues if I can, with 4 actions. I'd have to do 1 to move. I'd have 2 turns to do it because I'd move, evade him. He would tap. He wouldn't get an action this turn. Then I would, next round, get the other clue, evade him again, and then move and get out. So I could probably get both clues without fighting him. But we'll see when we get down there what happens. Something else could happen with the cards that are going to be drawn that changes the equation, so I'm not going to plan it out that far. We're out of actions, though. And I'm still nervous about the card lack of cards. So let's move on. Enemy phase. So we do have enemies out, but none of them are engaged with me. They can't attack. And none of them have the hunter keyword, so they don't move. So let's go to the upkeep phase. We drew my other flashlight. Come on, game. I got 18 cards left in this deck. I'm missing some pretty important damn cards. Now, I do have 2 weaknesses. 2 of those 18 are weaknesses. One of them's a randomly drawn weakness. So during deck building, you have certain requirements when you're putting the deck together. There are 30 cards that you get to pick and choose from. And depending on what character class you are, and the color denotes what class she is. And if we look on here where it says deck building options, it says deck size 30, deck building options. She's a survivor class primarily with a rogue class second. So the red cards are the survivor cards and the green cards are the rogue cards. But it says survivor cards and has the little symbol for survivor, level 0 to 5. That's all the cards. It only goes from 0 to 5. And then she can also use rogue cards from 0 to 2. Now, the 5 and the 2, the levels indicate how many experience points are necessary to purchase that card and put it in the deck. So experience levels go from none, 0, up to 5 max. And the 5s, of course, are the really powerful stuff. And then she can also use any of the neutral cards. There's a deck of neutral cards available, and she can use any of those. Most of the characters can use all the neutral cards. But then it says deck building requirements. In addition to the 30 cards for that top section, these don't count towards the 30 deck size. She has to have her amulet, her special item that her mom gave her. She has to have Abandoned and Alone, which is a signature weakness special to her. And then she draws 1 random basic weakness out of a deck of cards. I don't remember which random basic weakness she has that I drew. But yeah, there's 2 weaknesses out of that 18 cards. So I'm getting a little nervous that we're going to hit a weakness that's going to cripple me before I hit my good stuff. So... all right, so upkeep is complete. We got another flashlight, another resource, flipped everything over. We move back to the Mythos phase, so back to the top. Oops, back to the top. Add another one, we're at 2 out of 7. And draw a card. We got Grasping Hands again. So we had that one time previously, another agility test. Last time we drew the auto fail and took 3 damage. Man, I really hope that doesn't happen again. And I probably should have discarded a card. I screwed up. I forgot her basic ability. I shouldn't have taken that damage. I think I had a card in hand I could have trashed in order to redraw that. So I could have avoided that damage last time. If it happens again, we'll do it this time. So we have a test for 3 agility. We're a 4, so we're at +1. Do I want to modify? Absolutely not with my backstab. Can't do it with that. Can't do it with that. I could spend resources, and I think I will. Let's spend 2 resources, and we'll use our hard knocks to pump our agility 2 points. So that'll take us from 4 to a 6. So we're 6 versus 3. We're at a +3. Only the -4 or the auto fail. So 1 out of 8, 2 out of 16 will cause us to fail. We got -2. We're okay. So we succeeded at that. We can discard it. No effect. All right. Next up, our turn again. So we're at, what, 2 out of 7? 2 out of 7. There's one more card, but we got a lot of stuff to do still. We don't want to waste too much time. Do we walk straight into the cellar and deal with this guy, or do I draw cards first and deal with him next turn? I really, really, really want a baseball bat or something. We can definitely kill him. I mean, I can do it. Especially if I use these 2 cards, but there's a fight coming that I know I need these kinds of cards for, so I'm worried. And we've already used Lucky's gun, flashlight. We haven't lost anything too powerful for combat yet. So I have another backstab in the deck. One of the overpower is gone, so that's the last of those. What's more important here? If I'm gonna deal with them, I need to make the decision now before I use any actions, because it's gonna take me 1 to move, minimum of 2 to fight him, assuming I hit him both times and use the backstab. That's the only way I'm gonna get rid of that guy.